Hello, Year 3. It's time to revise Unit 2, our senses. So can you please make sure you have your science pupil book and your activity book ready? So let's review the 5 main senses that we learned. So what are the 5 main senses that we learned about? We have taste, hearing, smell, sight, and touch. Each of these senses has its own sense organ, and we will look at that a little bit further on. What are our 5 senses for? Our 5 senses give us information about our surroundings. They help us interact with the environment, other living beings, and other members of our species. Now let's grab our pupil books and open up to page 36 and review. What are the ways we use our sense of sight? With our sense of sight, we receive information about color, size, shape, and texture. It also alerts us to danger. We can see a fire or a slippery surface, and we know we should be careful. Our sense of sight also helps us to know distances, how close or far something is from us. I think this one is really important in Cairo because we need to know how far away that car is when we're crossing the street so we can run, run, run. Our eyes are the sense organ we use to see. The eye has an optic nerve which takes information to the brain. There are also people who have lost their sense of sight. People who are unable to see are blind. They need to use their other senses to help them navigate the world. One thing blind people can use is Braille, which is a series of dots on paper to help them read. They use their sense of touch for this. They may also use a walking stick to use their sense of touch to help them find their way around. We can also use visual aids to help us see better. We can use glasses to see more clearly. We can use a microscope to see very small things. We can use a magnifying glass to see things a bit bigger. And we can use a telescope to see things far, far, far away. Now let's go to page number 41 and do the exercises. For these 2 exercises, we're going to be describing using our sense of sight. So it could be a describing word for color, size, shape, or texture. So number 1, look at this fruit. What 3 things can you observe about it using your sense of sight? Number 2, Lena won a teddy bear at the fair. Use your sense of sight to observe the teddy bear. Describe what you see. For number 1, we could say the fruit has a rough skin, it is green, and it has an oval shape. Number 2, we could say the teddy bear is big, it has 2 eyes, it has brown fur, and it has a red bow tie. Let's open up to page 42 and let's review what are the ways we use our sense of hearing. With our sense of hearing, we receive information about sounds, such as loud sounds, like people who can't talk in a soft voice. They can only talk loud. You know who you are. And soft sounds, like the of the kitsy. And high sounds, high, 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 and low sounds. So our hearing also alerts us to danger. We can hear a siren or a car horn beeping. And this one's also important. Our hearing helps us know when our parents or our teachers are grumpy by the tone of their voice. It can also help us know where the sound is coming from, which is also very helpful. The ear is the sense organ we use to hear. We use our ears to identify sounds. The sounds go to the brain through the auditory nerve. Let's go to page 46 and do the exercises. Number 1, state whether each thing makes a loud or soft sound. So write loud or soft beside each picture. Number 2, Hadi heard an ice cream seller ringing a bell. Ding, ding, ding. The ringing of a bell was clear and sharp. Do you think the ringing of the bell was high or low? B, do you think the ringing of the bell was loud or soft? And C, how was the ringing of the bell useful For the ice cream seller, how is it useful for the ice cream seller? A is a megaphone, and it makes your voice louder, so it's definitely a loud sound. B are fireworks, and they're big explosions, so that's also loud. The sound of leaves falling on the ground, that is a soft sound. And a whisper is also a very soft sound. 2, A. The ringing of the bell was high. We have a high frequency, bing, 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 not bing, 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 was very, very high. Do you think the ringing of the bell was loud or soft? Well, if Huddy heard the ice cream seller from far away, it has to have been loud. And then C, how was the ringing of the bell useful? Well, I think it's useful because then if people are inside and they hear the bell, they know the ice cream seller is on the way. So all the people will run, run, run to the ice cream truck. Now, please look at page 47 and let's review. What are the ways we use our sense of touch? The sense of touch is the most spread out sense of our body. It is all over our skin. With the sense of touch, we can identify things like shape, texture, temperature, and pain. The skin is the biggest organ of our bodies. It is the sense organ we use for touch. An interesting thing to remember is animals have very sensitive whiskers and hairs. That means they have a higher sense of touch. Let's go to page number 50 and do the exercises. Number 1. Which of these things can we observe using our sense of touch? High notes of a song, rectangular box, soft pillow, wet cloth, colorful ribbons, smelly socks, hairy legs, cold ice lolly, large statue. Now let me give you a little hint here. Imagine you're touching these things with your eyes closed. Are you able to tell me about it using those descriptive words if your eyes were closed? 2. Helen is blind and uses Braille to read. Braille consists of patterns of raised dots on paper. Fill in the blanks. A. Helen has lost her sense of and B. Helen uses her sense of to read Braille. So which two senses go into those sentences? Here we have the answers for 1. We have a rectangular box because we can feel the shape, soft pillow because we can feel the texture, wet cloth because we can feel if something is wet or dry, hairy legs, also a texture, cold ice lolly, we can feel temperature, and large statue because we can feel if something is big or small. And number 2, Helen has lost her sense of sight. Helen uses her sense of touch to read Braille. Let's move on to section D. What are the ways we use our sense of smell? Smell is quite an important sense as it allows us to decide if something is ripe, off, or burnt. It helps us decide if we should eat the food or not. We can use words such as pleasant, unpleasant, strong, or light for smells. Our sense of smell also alerts us to danger, such as the smell of smoke or the smell of harmful chemicals. Our nose is the sense organ we use to know different smells. Olfactory nerves identify smells while we breathe. Let's move on to page number 55 and do the exercises. Exercise 1. State whether each smell is pleasant or unpleasant. Please write the word pleasant or unpleasant underneath each of A, B, C, and D. Number 2. Our nose gets blocked when we have a cold. Which of our senses is most affected when our nose is blocked? And number 3, give 2 examples of how our sense of smell is helpful. There's lots and lots of examples here, so just give me 2. Number 1, A is unpleasant, B is pleasant, C is unpleasant, and D is pleasant. Number 2, Our sense of smell is most affected when we have a cold. Number 3, our sense of smell lets us know if food is spoiled. Spoiled food smells unpleasant. Our sense of smell lets us know if something is burning. It can warn us if there is a danger. Things like this. Let's do section E. What are the ways we use our sense of taste? Taste allows us to know the flavor of food. Sometimes smell and taste work together to give us information. Can you remember when we tried out the cinnamon? If we closed our nose, some people weren't able to taste the cinnamon anymore. So humans can perceive 5 main types of flavors. We have sweet, salty, bitter, umami, which was the meaty flavor, and sour. Now, can you think of other types of foods that have these flavors? Can you remember from our taste testing? The sense of taste is found in the tongue. In the upper part of the tongue, we find the taste buds. Now let's do the last exercises in the Pupils book on page number 59. What can our sense of taste tell us about different types of fruits? Choose the correct words. Can the fruit be spiky, yellow, sour, sweet, firm, hairy, bitter, small, or round? Now, again, I want you guys to think about closing your eyes, putting the fruit into your mouth, and then how does your sense of taste describe them? Number 2, state whether each food is sweet, salty, bitter, or sour. We have honey, lime, dark chocolate, and salted nuts. Number 1, our sense of taste lets us know that the fruit can be sour, sweet, or bitter. Number 2, A, honey is sweet, B, lime is sour, C, dark chocolate is bitter, and D, salted nuts are salty. Can you now please get your activity book and open to page number 26? We're going to do the review. Here we have activity book page 26. Let's review. So this is all the senses. We're reviewing them all together. So in the blue box, we have fill in the blanks using these words from the blue box. Bitter, sight, cold, low, hearing, tongue, skin, loud, taste, colors, unpleasant, and textures. Now let's move down to the first line and see how we can use these words. We need to do the first 2 lines together, as some of the examples in the top line are there with missing underneath, or sometimes the example is in the bottom, the second line, and missing above. So we actually need to work on 2 at a time. So for example, the first one is missing the sense of which makes use of our eyes. So we have to go back to the top line and see which sense is using that sense organ, the eyes. So I want you to work in sets of 2. The first line and the second line. The first line and the second line. The first line and the second line. After you finish the top 2 lines, move on to the bottom line. Now, these are describing words, the adjectives to describe the senses. What I want you to do is I want you to make sure you have crossed off the words you've used already. You should have crossed off all the sense of words and all of the sensory organ words. So then, now I want you to read through the adjectives, the describing words, and try and guess which one matches which leftover word. Here are the answers. Please self-check. I'm wondering how much sign language you guys remember from our class last term. I'm sure you remember Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We all will remember that forever, I think. But what about greetings? Why don't you go onto YouTube, look up one of the BSL videos, BSL, British Sign Language. Maybe you could review the greetings or you can learn something new. You could even learn a new song in BSL. Why don't you have a go and have a play? Thank you, Year 3. I hope you had a good time. See you next time.